morning.
Hi, today is Monday, May 18th. We're going to be reading 1 Samuel
30
and 31.
Yes, and we are finishing 1 Samuel. Yes. Hey, Josh, you ready? Did you find your place? Joshua. You have had a long but very fun day. You got to celebrate your birthday and
Now I see.
yes, and you got to play with some new Legos.
Another nice
And so, but we're going to read. That's right.
So you should be fast and wake.
And so now we're going to read, and we're going to finish up 2 Samuel. Are you ready? Well, you say that because you're going to start us off. Well, yes.
I know.
Yes. Go for it.
David defeats the
Amalekites.
Now when David and his men came to Ziklag on the third day, the Amalekites had raided the south as far as Ziklag. They had struck Ziklag and burnt it with fire. They had taken as captives all the women who were there. They did not kill anyone, but carried them off and went on their way. David and his men came to the city, and they found it burnt with fire, and their wives, their sons, and their daughters taken captive. So David and the people that were with him lifted up their voice and wept until they had no strength in them to weep. Now David's 2 wives were taken captive. Ahinoam, the Jezreelitess, and Abigail, the wife of Nabal, and
The
Carmelite. David was greatly distressed, for the people talked of stoning him, because all the people were bitter in spirit, each over his sons and daughters. But David encouraged himself in the Lord his God.
And David said to
Abiathar,
the priest, the son of Ahimelech, please bring the ephod to me. So
Abiathar
brought the ephod to David. David inquired at the Lord, saying, should I pursue after this raiding party? Will I overtake them? And he answered him, pursue them, for you will surely overtake them, and will surely recover all.
So David went, he and the 600 men who were with him, and they came to the brook Besor, where those who were left behind remained. But David pursued, he and the 400 men, for 200 who were too exhausted to cross over the brook Besor remained behind. They found an Egyptian in the field and took him to David. He gave him bread, and he ate, and they made him drink water. And they gave him a part of the cake of figs, and 2 cakes of raisins. When he had eaten, his spirit came back to him, for he had not eaten bread or drunk any water for 3 days and nights. Verse 13. Then David said to him, "To whom do you belong, and where are you from?" And he said, "I am a young man of Egypt, servant of an Amalekite. And my master left me, because 3 days ago I fell sick. We raided the south of the Kerethites, the south of Judah, and the south of Caleb, and we burned Ziklag with fire." David said to him, "Will you bring me down to this raiding party?" And he said, "Swear to me by God that you will neither kill me nor deliver me into the hand of my master, and I will bring you down to this raiding party." When he brought him down, they were spread out over all the land, eating, drinking, and dancing, because of all the great spoil which they had taken from the land of the Philistines. And from the land of Judah, David struck them from twilight until the evening of the next day, and no man escaped except 400 young men who rode on camels and fled. So David recovered all that the Amalekites had taken, and David rescued his 2 wives. Now there was nothing missing from the smallest thing to the greatest, neither sons nor daughters, or plunder, or anything which they had taken. David brought back all of it, and David took all the flocks and the herds which they drove before the other livestock. And they said, "This is David's spoil." Then David came to the 200 men who were too exhausted to follow David, whom he left at the brook Besor. And they went out to meet David and the people who were with him. And when David came near to the people, he greeted them. Then all the wicked and worthless ones from the men who went with David answered and said, "Because they did not go with us, we will not give them anything from the spoil that we have rescued, except to every man his wife and his children, that they may lead them away and depart." Then David said, "You will not do so, my brothers, with what the Lord has given us, for he has preserved us and has delivered into our hands the raiding party that came against us. And who will listen to you in the matter? Indeed, as the share is of the one going down to battle, so will be the share of the one staying with the equipment. They will share equally." So it was so from that day forward, that he set it as a statute and an ordinance for Israel to this day. When David came to Ziklag, he set part of the spoil for his friends, the elders of Judah, saying, "Here is a gift to you from the spoil of the enemies of the Lord." So those who were in Bethel, in Ramah, and of the Negev, and in Jatir, to those who were in Achor, Sifmor, Eshtemoa, and in Rakal, to those who were in the cities of the Jerahmeelites and the Kenites, to those who were in Hormah, Bor, Ashan, Athak, and in Hebron, and to those who were in all the other places where David and his men had roamed. Chapter 31. The house of Saul, dead and buried. Now the Philistines were fighting against Israel, and Israel's fighting men fled before the Philistines, and they fell slain on Mount Gilboa. The Philistines overtook Saul and his sons, and the Philistines killed his sons Jonathan, Abinadab, and Malchishua, Malchishua, Saul's sons. The battle was heavy against Saul. The archers found him, and he was severely wounded by the archers. Then Saul said to his armor-bearer, "Draw your sword and thrust me through with it, lest these uncircumcised come and thrust me through and abuse me." But his armor-bearer would not, for he was very afraid. Therefore Saul took his sword and fell upon it. When his armor-bearer saw that Saul was dead, he also fell upon his sword and died with him. So Saul died, and his 3 sons and his armor-bearer, together with all his men, on that same day. When Israel's fighting men who were on the other side of the valley and those who were on the other side of the Jordan saw that Israel's fighting men fled and that Saul and his sons were dead, they abandoned the cities and fled. So the Philistines came and lived in them. The following day, when the Philistines came to strip the dead, they found Saul and his 3 sons fallen on Mount Gilboa. They cut off his head, stripped off his armor, and sent them into the land of the Philistines round about, to make it known to the house of their idols and among their people. They put his armor in the house of Ashtoreth, and they fastened his body to the wall of Bethshan. When the inhabitants of Jabesh Gilead heard that what the Philistines had done to Saul, all the valiant men arose and went all night. And they took the body of Saul and the bodies of his sons from the wall of Bethshan, and they came to Jabesh and buried them there. Then they took the bones and buried them under the tamarisk tree at Jabesh, and they mourned, fasting 7 days. And that is the end of 1 Samuel 30 and 31. It's also the end of the book of 1 Samuel.
Bye. Have a great day. Please subscribe. Hope you like this video. Please do like or comment.
Bye.